Now take you to the Milimani Law Courts where Stephen Leto is on standby. We can see quite some activity behind him. I'm not sure if that's related to the NYS probe and the fact that the suspects are supposed to be arraigned in court this morning. Leto, good morning. Yesterday you are at a different location on the same story. What can you tell us about what is happening at the courts at the moment?
Well, Wahiga, we anticipated that the 54 suspects that the Director of Public Prosecutions, Nordin Haji, say that they will be presented in court this morning. We anticipated that by 8 a.m. they will be presented before a judge. But until now, we are yet to see them. Any moment from now, Wahiga, they will be making their way to the courts. Already we are all set for them. And what we just see is heightened activities along the anti-corruption court, where they are scheduled to appear before a judge for, a prosecution or otherwise. But what we are being told is we might be having the top NYS suspects who form the core of the ongoing investigations. That is Richard Ndubai, the PS who stepped aside, Lillian Omollo, will be arraigned in court any moment from now. But remember, yesterday there were about 20 arrests that were made, and it is the 20 that we really expect them to be presented before court, because until last night or last evening, like the DPP Nordin Haji had said, that we are still waiting to see more arrests being done, because 34 out of the 54 suspects were at large, and that only 20 had been arrested by last evening. And so we are not sure yet whether the 34 who were at large yesterday have already been arrested and will be arraigned in court subsequently. But now what we are sure is the 20 who spent their night in various police stations dotted across Nairobi City County. We expect to see all their faces. We remember the arrest yesterday. The net was cast wide, Waiga, until Naivasha in Nakuru County, when we had the 31-year-old lady who supplied absolutely nothing to the NYS and was paid a whooping 59 billion shillings. Her face will also be seen today before court, and we are, of course, waiting to see the charges that that will be read. But until yesterday, we saw various charges, including conspiracy to commit an offense of corruption, flouting procurement laws, abuse of office, as well as colluding to steal public money. Those are some of the charges that we saw in the charge sheet, or rather, not really charge sheet, but in the press statement that was issued by the Director of Public Prosecutions, Nordin Haji. Of course, we anticipate again to see whether the investigators will be seeking more time from the judge for further investigations. But according to the DPP yesterday, he said that the prosecutors have a watertight case to nail all the 20 suspects that were arrested yesterday, and even the entire 54 were in number, and of course the directors of the 10 companies that were paid the monies. Again, Wahiga, a very important point is the investigations that were, or the arrests that were made yesterday, were as a result of the about 467 million shillings of the NYS money. Remember, the total NYS money in question is 8 billion shillings. And so our main investigations of about 467 million is really a tip of the iceberg, and that more arrests and more charges will be coming from the Office of the Director of Public Prosecutions. And so the arraignment in court today, Wahiga, is regarding the 467 million shillings out of the 8 billion shillings that will be, arraigned in court. And so those who will be lined in court will be in regard to 467 million shillings out of the 8 billion shillings. And so over 7 billion shillings are still being investigated by the Director of Public Prosecutions and the Director of Criminal Investigations. And what we are told yesterday by the DCI detectives is more arrests, Wahiga, were to be done today or last night. And so we are again keen to see whether the 34 suspects who are still missing were, had been arrested. And remember, those who had been arrested, out of the 54, Majority of them are staff from the National Youth Service who are in charge of the finance, IFMIS, procurement, and even the technical bit. And other who are among the 40 from the public service were auditors from the National Treasury, as well as those who are dubbed as IFMIS buyer. Also, we had some from the National Youth Service, procurement department, accounts department, and all that, of course, we want to see their faces this morning. But again, lastly, Wahiga, is the number of banks that are under investigations. Yesterday, the Director of Public Prosecutions said that there are several banks that are already on the DPP's radar. He did not mention them, but he said all the monies were channeled through various banks in the city, and so all of them are under investigations, and once they are concluded, they will all be charged, or relevant prosecutions will be leveled against them. And then finally, Wahiga, again, is the directors of all the 10 banks that were mentioned yesterday by the DPP. Remember, last week, some of them went to this same court seeking anticipatory bails that they should not be arrested, but they were denied. And so yesterday, they were among the 20 who were arrested. And so, Wahiga, we continue to look out on what is transpiring right here from Milimani Court, the anti-corruption court in particular, to see how this thing is rolling. Remember, critics have terming this exercise as a mere show-off, or a mere, PR exercise only meant to blindfold the taxpayer. But this, we want to see, as per the DPP's word, that it will not be business as usual, and that heads will continue to roll, and that public money must be safeguarded. And so for now, Wahiga, you let us get inside the anti-corruption court. I'll also be trying to look into, trying to have a tete-a-tete with some of the lawyers